You never think that a small act of kindness could change your whole life. You do it not because you expect something in return, but because it's the right thing to do. But sometimes the universe has other plans. Those plans will soon unfold. For Tasha Williams, that moment came on a Tuesday evening at an old gas station on the outskirts of town. As Tasha finished her double shift at the diner, the sun was setting. Her feet ached. Her uniform smelled of grease and coffee. She wanted to rest. In the back room, she counted her tips, $23. Adding the $8 she had saved the day before, she had a total of $31. The rent was due in 2 days, and she was still $150 short. The electricity bill sat unpaid on the counter of her small apartment. If she didn't pay it, her phone service would be cut off on Friday, and there were many more unpaid bills like that. Tasha was 25 years old, very dark-skinned, with bright eyes that hadn't lost their warmth despite everything, and she smiled generously even when life gave her nothing. She worked 2 jobs, in the mornings at a laundromat and in the evenings at Joe's Diner, serving truck drivers and the late-night crowd. She walked everywhere because her car had broken down 6 months ago, and she didn't have the money to fix it. How long could you keep going under such grueling working conditions? But Tasha didn't complain. Her grandmother had raised her with one rule: kindness is free. She carefully put the money in her pocket, $23 for rent, $8 for food until Friday. Then she started walking the 2 miles home. It was a long way. The streets were quiet. Tasha passed through the gas station parking lot to use the restroom before the long walk. That's when she heard a sound. Someone was struggling desperately. She looked up and saw a large man with a thick gray beard and arms covered in tattoos. He wore a black leather vest with patches. Hell's Angels. Tasha could see the skull logo even from a distance. The man staggered, his hand going to his chest, his face contorted in pain. He collapsed to one knee beside a chrome motorcycle. Tasha froze. Every instinct told her to keep walking. She'd heard stories about bikers like him. She couldn't help, but then the man slumped onto the sidewalk. His breathing was ragged. His lips were turning blue. "Hey!" Tasha yelled toward the gas station. "Someone call 911. The attendant, a white man in his 30s, stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. He looked at the man on the ground, then at Tasha and shrugged. "Lady, are you crazy? He's a Hell's Angel. Those guys are nothing but trouble," he warned. "He's having a heart attack," Tasha said. "Not my problem," the attendant said, going back inside. An older white man wearing a trucker's cap came out of the store. He saw what was happening and shook his head as he approached Tasha. "Ma'am, stay out of this," he said. "A man is dying," Tasha said. The truck driver shook his head again and walked toward his car. Tasha was left alone in the parking lot. She looked down at the man. His chest wasn't moving. She thought of her grandmother who had collapsed on a sidewalk in the city years ago. People had passed by him. No one had stopped. Tasha's trauma was triggered. Tasha knelt down next to the man. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked. His eyes barely opened. He tried to speak, but only a wheezing sound came out. "Heart, medicine? Forgot," he said. Tasha took out her phone. She called 911. The call dropped due to poor signal. "Damn it," she said, looking at the man. She ran to the gas station. "I need aspirin." "Right now," Tasha said. "We don't have any." "You have a first aid section. I saw it." "Where's the aspirin?" she asked again. The attendant pointed reluctantly. Tasha took the medicine bottle and water and gave him her last 8 bar. The attendant slowly opened the cash register. "85, he said. Tasha's heart sank. She was 50 cents short. "Please, a man is dying outside," she said. "That's not my problem." 50 cents short, replied the clerk. Tasha's hands were shaking. She looked at the money in her hand, the money she needed for food. But she wanted to help the man. She took out her wallet and found 2 quarters at the bottom, left over from doing laundry weeks ago. She threw them on the counter. "Here, $8.50, she said. She ran outside. The man wasn't breathing. Tasha opened the aspirin bottle, crushed a tablet, and managed to place it under the man's tongue with a little water. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, breathe." As she had learned in her first aid class at the community center years ago, she began chest compressions, counting in her head. Her arms were burning. Sweat was dripping from her face. She kept going. She had only one desire: to save the man. Suddenly, the man took a breath. His eyes opened. He couldn't focus, but he was alive. It was an incredible moment for Tasha. Tasha was so relieved she almost fainted. "You're going to be okay," she said. Sirens were wailing in the distance. Someone had finally called 911. The man looked at her, his voice weak. You helped me," he said. "Of course I did," Tasha replied. "Why?" the man asked. Tasha smiled wearily. "Because that's what people do. We help each other," she said. The ambulance pulled into the parking lot. Paramedics rushed over and took control of the situation. One paramedic turned to Tasha. "Did you give him aspirin?" he asked. "Yes," Tasha replied. "You saved his life. A few more minutes and he would have died," said the paramedic. Tasha nodded, too exhausted to feel proud. Before the doors closed, the man looked at her one more time. "What's your name?" he called out. "Tasha." "Tasha Williams," she replied. "I'm Hawk." "Thank you, Tasha Williams. I won't forget this," he said. Then the ambulance drove away. Tasha stood alone in the parking lot, her uniform soaked through with sweat, having spent her last $8. She had nothing left. No money for food until Friday, but a man was alive because of her. She began the long walk home, each step weighed down by exhaustion and the worry of how she would eat for the next 3 days. When she finally reached her small apartment, she collapsed onto her bed without even changing her clothes. She fell into a deep sleep instantly. The next morning, Tasha woke up to a sound she had never heard before, a deep, rumbling roar that shook the walls of her building. She got up and looked out the window. The street was filled with motorcycles. Not just a few, dozens, maybe hundreds. They all had the same patches, Hell's Angels. Tasha's heart was racing. What was going on, she asked herself. Her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, an elderly black woman who had lived in the building for 30 years, was banging frantically on her door. "Tasha, the place is full of bikers. Should I call the police?" she asked. Tasha opened the door. I don't know," she replied. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed on the stairs. Tasha's stomach knotted with fear. Maybe helping Hawk had been a mistake. There was a knock at her door. Tasha slowly opened the door. Hawk was standing there, looking completely different from the dying man she had helped last night. He was tall, strong, and imposing. Behind him stood 2 more bikers, one a black man in his 40s, the other a white woman in her 50s. They all wore the same patches. Hawk asked, "Tasha Williams?" "Yes," replied Tasha. "Can we talk?" asked Hawk. Tasha looked at Mrs. Patterson, who appeared terrified. "It's okay, Mrs. Patterson. I know him," she said. They entered her small apartment. Hawk saw the bare walls, the second-hand furniture, the bills piled on the counter. "You saved my life last night," Hawk said. "I did what anyone would do," Tasha replied. "No," Hawk said. "You did something most people wouldn't do. While I was lying there dying, people walked right past me. They told me I was a problem. They told me to leave them alone. But you didn't." Tasha shifted uncomfortably. "I couldn't just leave you," she replied. "You spent your last $8 on aspirin. The paramedics said so. That money was for your food, wasn't it?" he asked. Tasha looked away. "It's okay. I'll find a way," she said. The black motorcyclist behind Hawk stepped forward. "My name is Marcus. I'm the vice president of this club. What Hawk meant to say is this: we protect our own. And anyone who saves one of us becomes family," he said. The female motorcyclist nodded. "I'm Patricia. We want to help you, Tasha. Will you let us? If you were in Tasha's place, would you accept such help?" Tasha's pride swelled. "I don't want charity," she said. "This isn't charity," said Hawk. "This is gratitude. You gave when you had nothing. Give us a chance to give back." Before Tasha could respond, a commotion broke out outside. She looked out the window and saw motorcyclists unloading boxes, bags, furniture, and other items from trucks parked behind their motorcycles. "What's happening?" Tasha asked. Hawk smiled. "We've collected some aid, and some friends from other clubs." "What you did spread quickly," he said. Marcus showed her a piece of paper. "Your rent for the next 6 months is paid. All your bills are paid. And we brought enough food to fill your kitchen for months," he said. Tasha's eyes filled with tears. "I don't understand," she said. Patricia approached. "Sweetie, you saw a person in need and you helped them. That's rare. And we don't forget people like you," she said. Hawk pulled out an envelope. "There's more. We know your car broke down. We have a mechanic at the club. He'll fix it for free," he said, handing her another envelope. "To help you get back on your feet." Tasha opened the envelope with trembling hands. There was cash inside. She counted it quickly. There was $5,000. "I can't accept this," she said. "You can and you will," said Hawk. "Because one day when your situation improves, you will help someone else. That's how things work. Goodness begets more goodness," he said. Tasha broke down in tears. Mrs. Patterson, watching from the doorway, began to cry too. Over the next hour, the bikers transformed Tasha's apartment. They brought a new bed, clean sheets, a small dining table, kitchenware, and enough food to fill the cupboards. The neighbors, afraid of the leather-clad bikers, came out cautiously at first. But as they watched this kindness unfold, their fear turned to curiosity, then respect. One of the neighbors, an elderly Asian man named Mr. Chen, approached Marcus hesitantly. "Are you really the Hell's Angels?" Marcus smiled. "We are, and let me tell you before you ask, yes, we ride motorcycles. Yes, we look intimidating. But we also believe in the importance of helping people. This woman saved one of our sisters. That's why we're helping her." Mr. Chen slowly nodded his head, his prejudices crumbling. That's beautiful." By noon, Tasha's apartment was unrecognizable. An empty, challenging space had been transformed into a warm, full, hopeful home. Hawk gathered all the bikers in the parking lot. Tasha stood on her balcony watching. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. This woman, Tasha Williams, didn't see a scary biker last night. She saw a person in need. She gave her last $8 to save a stranger's life. She's the kind of person the world needs more of. The bikers nodded in agreement and started their engines, a loud roar echoing through the neighborhood. Hawk looked at Tasha. "Your family now. If you ever need anything at all, call me. Got it?" Tasha nodded, too emotional to speak. The bikers got on their motorcycles. One by one, they pulled out and waved to Tasha as they left. The roar of the engines slowly faded away. When the last motorcycle turned the corner, the street fell silent. Tasha stood on her balcony, looking out at the changed world around her. Her apartment was full. Her bills were paid. Her car would be fixed. And she had $5,000 more money than she had ever had in her life. But more importantly, she had hope. Mrs. Patterson stepped out onto her own balcony. "Tasha, dear, I've lived on this street for 30 years. I've seen a lot, but I've never seen anything like this." Tasha smiled. "Me too, Mrs. Patterson. Me too." The next morning, Tasha woke up in her new bed and was confused for a moment. For a moment, she thought yesterday had been a dream. Then she saw the full closets, the new furniture, the envelope of money on her nightstand. It was real. Everything was real. She made herself breakfast. Real eggs, fresh bread, orange juice. Things she hadn't had in months. As she ate, she thought about what Hawk had said. One day, when things get better, you'll help someone else. This thought stayed with her as she got ready for work. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of helplessness on her shoulders. At the laundromat, her coworker Denise noticed it right away. "Girl, what happened to you? You're glowing." Tasha smiled. "I had a good day yesterday." What a day it was. That evening at the restaurant, Tasha noticed things she hadn't seen before because of her exhaustion. A young couple counting their change to pay for their meal, stress evident on their faces. An elderly man sipping a cup of coffee for hours because he had nowhere else to go. A construction worker probably rushing through his meal between jobs. When the young couple's bill came to $18 and they only had $15, Tasha paid the difference from her tips. "Don't worry, enjoy your meal." The woman's eyes welled up. "Thank you so much, things are a little tight." "I understand, I really do." When her shift ended, Tasha didn't just count her tips. She now looked at money differently. She had savings, she had security, and that meant she could give. She left a total of $20 in extra tips for a young waiter attending community college. She paid for the old man's coffee. She gave the construction worker an extra slice of cake, saying there was too much made in the kitchen. Small gestures, but they mattered. Over the next few weeks, word spread about what the bikers had done. Local news picked up the story. A reporter came to Tasha's apartment for an interview. "So you spent your last $8 to save a stranger's life?" asked the reporter. Tasha nodded. "He needed help. That was all that mattered. And now the Hells Angels have adopted you?" Tasha smiled. "They showed me what it means to really look at people. Not because you have to, but because you can." The news aired that evening. The next morning, thanks to the bikers, Tasha's now working phone was flooded with calls. Some thanked her for changing their perception of bikers. Others asked how they could help their own communities. But one call was different. It was from a woman named Donna Martinez, who ran a local community center. "Tasha, I saw your story. We're starting a program to help workers in crisis. We'll help people who don't qualify for aid but are barely getting by. Will you help us design the program? You understand what they're going through better than anyone." Tasha's voice faltered. "I'd love to." Within 2 months, the program was launched. Hand up, not handout, providing workers in crisis with emergency funds, job search assistance, and support for basic needs. Tasha became the community liaison, using her own experiences to shape the program's direction. And the Hells Angels became the program's biggest supporters. They organized fundraising rides, donated money from their own pockets, and volunteered their time. The people the neighborhood feared became the neighborhood's biggest advocates. Hawk regularly visited Tasha, bringing coffee and checking on her progress. One afternoon, they sat on a bench outside the community center, watching people come and go. "You know what I've learned?" Hawk said. "People fear what they don't understand. They see the leather, the tattoos, the patches, and assume we're dangerous." "And?" Tasha asked. "And sometimes, we are dangerous to those who harm innocent people. But mostly, we are people who have found a family outside traditional boundaries. We look out for each other. That's what matters." Tasha nodded. "You showed me that. Family isn't just blood. It's those who are there for you when you need them." "Exactly." Hawk paused. "You saved my life, Tasha, but I think you saved more than that. You saved my faith in people." "What do you mean?" "I've been riding motorcycles for 30 years. I've seen the worst in people. Selfish, cruel, judgmental. I was starting to think nobody cared about anybody anymore. Then you showed up and spent your last $8 on a stranger nobody else would give up. You reminded me that there's still good in this world." Tasha's eyes welled up. "You gave me so much more than I gave you." "No." Hawk's voice was firm. "We gave each other hope. That's more valuable than money. 6 months after that night at the gas station, the community center held a celebration. Over 200 people attended. The families who had been helped, volunteers, donors, and about 30 bikers from various clubs. Tasha stood on the podium and looked out at the crowd. 6 months ago, I had $8 in my pocket. I spent that money on aspirin and water for a stranger who was dying. I thought I was just doing what anyone would do. But that night, I learned something important. She paused to gather her thoughts. I learned that kindness isn't common. It should be, but it's not. Too many people walk past those in pain because of fear, busyness, or deciding it's not worth helping someone. But every person is worth helping. Every single one. The room filled with applause. The Hells Angels taught me something else, Tasha continued. They taught me that the people society tells you to fear are often the ones with the biggest hearts. They showed me that family isn't about where you come from, but who's there for you in tough times. Hawk stood at the back, arms crossed, smiling proudly. So I want to issue a challenge to everyone here, Tasha said. Find someone who needs help. Don't judge them. Don't wait for them to prove they deserve help. Just help them. Because that's how we change the world. One act of kindness at a time. The room erupted in applause. People stood up, cheered, cried, felt the weight of her words. After the event, a young black woman approached Tasha nervously. She was about 22, wearing a fast food restaurant uniform. Miss Williams, I just wanted to say thank you. Last month I was going to be evicted from my home in 2 days. Your program helped me. I still have my apartment, I still have my job. I'm going to make it because you gave me a chance. Tasha hugged her tightly. You gave yourself a chance. You just needed a little support. Sometimes that's all any of us need. The woman wiped her eyes. When my situation improves, I'll help someone else. I promise. I'm sure you will. A year after the gas station incident, Tasha was sitting in her apartment, still the same apartment, even though she could now afford a better one. She liked staying in the neighborhood, staying connected to the people she had helped. Her car was fixed and running. Her bills were paid. She had been promoted to a full-time position at the community center, coordinating programs and helping families. She earned enough money to live comfortably, save and help others. But more importantly, she had a family. The Hells Angels members checked on her regularly. Hawk called him every Sunday. Marcus invited him to barbecues. Patricia brought him home-cooked meals when he worked late. And the neighborhood had changed too. People who used to lock their doors when they saw bikers now waved and smiled. Kids drew pictures of motorcycles and gave them to club members. Fear had been replaced by respect and understanding. Tasha kept the empty aspirin bottle from that night. It reminded her of where she had been and how far she had come. She kept it on top of her dresser, next to a photo of her and Hawk taken at the opening of the community center. One evening, walking home from the center, she saw a woman sitting on a bench at a bus stop, crying. The woman was of Latin descent, in her mid-30s, with 2 shopping bags beside her. Tasha sat down next to her. "Are you okay?" The woman raised her head shyly. "I'm fine. Just I've had a rough day. Would you like to talk about it?" The woman hesitated. Then the words started pouring out. "I lost my job last week. I have to pay rent tomorrow. I don't know what to do. I've applied everywhere, but no one will hire me. I feel like I'm drowning." Tasha took out her wallet and pulled out $200 she had saved from her paycheck. She held the money out to the woman. "What? No, I can't." "Yes, you can. Take it, pay the rent, buy groceries. And when you get back on your feet, help someone else." The woman wiped her tears as she looked at the money. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Tasha smiled. "Someone once did this for me. Now I'm doing it for you. That's how things work." She pulled out the community center card. "If you need more help, finding a job, food assistance, whatever, call this number. We're here for you." The woman clutched the money and card as if they were a lifeline. "I won't forget this. I promise. I'll pass your kindness on to others." "I know." Tasha stood up and continued walking home. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. She thought about that night at the gas station, her last $8, the choice she made. She could have walked away. She could have listened to her fear, but she didn't. And because of that choice, dozens of families were helped. A community was transformed. Prejudices were questioned, and a young woman sitting at the bus stop was hopeful again. Kindness begets more kindness. That's the lesson. Tasha took out her phone and texted Hawk. "Thank you for teaching me that giving is better than receiving." The reply came immediately. "You were the first to teach us that. We just gave back what you showed us." Tasha smiled and put her phone in her pocket. She walked home feeling lighter than she had in years, because she had learned the most important truth. You can never be too poor to do a good deed. You can never be too hard up to help someone. And sometimes, the smallest act of generosity creates waves that change everything. Her grandmother had been right all along. Kindness costs nothing, and sometimes it's the only thing we can give. But when you give generously, expecting nothing in return, it comes back to you 100-fold. Tasha had spent her last $8 on a stranger who was about to die. In return, she gained a family, a purpose, and a future brighter than she could have imagined. That is the power of kindness. That is the power of choosing to help, even at the cost of losing everything. And that is a lesson worth sharing with the world.